Damn, son, where'd you find this?
People don't be offended by the truth. They be offended because you called out the truth. Simple as that. They don't want to hear any other narrative that makes them look bad.
One thing I can't stand at this big grown age is somebody who act like cause and effect does not exist. Like, yes, your actions caused this outcome. Yes, what you did lit the match. Like, why are you surprised and playing victim?
Guys, Chico, they never lied.
That's how you know somebody doesn't respect you. They listen to reply, not to be understood. They cut you off. They minimize what actually matters to you. They laugh at your boundaries, and then they call you sensitive when you try to hold the line. They show up late, they cancel last minute, forget the things you've told them, because in their world, your time, your energy, even your voice aren't a priority. They're just an option. You see, there are two kinds of people. Those who adjust when they realize they've actually hurt you, and those who expect you to adjust so they don't have to change. You don't need to be disrespected loudly to be disrespected deeply. Sometimes you'll see it. It's just in their tone, in their patterns, in the silence after you're known. Respect isn't what they say when they're watching. It's how they act when they think you'll tolerate it.
Yo, 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 yo. Good evening. Peace and blessings to the good people. Oh. How's everybody doing this brisk Monday evening? I hope all is well. I hope you enjoyed your weekends. Shout outs to my poets, writers, creators in general. There's a couple more people I want to give my flowers to, but I want to say thank you for being here, for joining the conversations, for your input, the energy, all that. Appreciate you. All right. You see the title. I got the clip. We're getting ready to chop it up. I got Coach in the building. I got Rob in the building. This is going to be a goodie. I'm trying to reach Sid. If she pulls up, I will definitely bring her into the studio. But let me bring the fellas up real quick, man. Y'all already know the energy. Make sure you like, share, let the people know we on. Support these brothers and everything that they got going on. Yeah, what up? What up? What up? What up?
Yo, what's going on?
Yeah, what's popping?
What's the word, man? How everybody?
Happy Monday, gentlemen.
Happy Monday.
Likewise, likewise. Hey, man, this is a new one. I never heard of this before. The flip your phone trend. It's a new one. I mean, we got 1 million of them, right? So, this is a little different. I'm gonna bring it up on a big screen. And we'll just go from there, just jump straight into it.
All right, let's get it.
Our a parent, if you work in a school, if you have family members who work in a school, I need you to listen to me because there's this new trend called flipping the camera. The sole purpose of this trend is to cause the person who is holding the phone to be embarrassed. They pick specific individuals, and maybe the kid who doesn't really have any friends, and then they trick this kid into thinking like, oh, we want you a part of this trend. Can you help me like hold my phone? They're holding the phone, the person's holding the phone, and then they go and they flip the camera, and the person doesn't know that now they're being filmed. So they're being filmed off guard. They don't know that the camera is pointing at them, and it's just to make fun of the person holding the phone. Now, it was sad when I saw that it was like a kid with maybe special needs who's holding the phone, but then I saw a clip where this group of kids give the phone to a substitute or a teacher, a elderly sub or teacher who has absolutely no idea what's going on, and they're making fun of the person in this clip. That could be your grandma, that could be your mom, that could be one of your relatives that these kids are going and making fun of because they think it's fun. Now, Texas has done away with phones in the classrooms, but kids are also doing it in the parking lots at schools. They're doing it at football games. They're doing it all over the place. They're doing it inside the stores. So if you have a kid that comes up to you and says, can you hold my phone? Say no. Say no. Tell your kids to not hold anyone's phone. Tell your relatives who work in schools, if they're subbing, if they're teaching, if they're anything in the school, tell them not to hold anybody's phone. Just say no, because that is what these kids are doing. And y'all let me know what you think. If you are a parent, if you work in a school, if you
Sid, you just came at the end of the video. How are you, first of all? How's your day going?
Doing pretty good. We took my son and daughter to a museum and got back a little bit later than expected because of the traffic. But it was pretty cool. It was it was like a physics / like, I don't know, like it was a science type museum, like science exploration and how things work and stuff like that. So it was pretty cool, very hands-on. They had a ball pit, which of course that was my kid's favorite stuff, but I really enjoyed the hurricane simulator. As you probably would
wow.
get.
What did you enjoy about the simulator?
I thought it was pretty cool that they put it at hurricane speed, so you could actually feel what it would have been like to actually be out in a hurricane. As you probably know, I love weather and wind and stuff like that, so it was pretty interesting to feel what it would have been like.
You know what it'd be? I want to jump in one of those things, you know, like it's like you skydiving, but it's just, is that what you like? I want to jump in one of those. That'll be dope.
I did that for my 13th birthday. It's super cool.
Nice.
Adrenaline junkie, huh, Sid?
When it comes to nature, yes, but certain things, not as much. Like, I like traditional roller coasters, but flipping me upside down, nah, I'm good.
Hey, Sid, when you were at the museum, did you see anybody? Did you hold anybody's phone?
Besides my own, no, I did not. I'm assuming that's what this is about.
Yeah, did you see anybody swapping phones and you know, doing the latest trend that was going on while trying to learn science at the same time?
Is it like they're actually like flipping their phones in the air or something? I'm about to look it up to see what this is.
Well, what I can do, I'll run it back one more time for you. It's like a minute 39 seconds.
You have family members who work in a school, I need you to listen to me because there's this new trend called flipping the camera. The sole purpose of this trend is to cause the person who is holding the phone to be embarrassed. They pick specific individuals, and maybe the kid who doesn't really have any friends, and then they trick this kid into thinking like, oh, we want you a part of this trend, can you help me like hold my phone? They're holding the phone, the person's holding the phone, and then they go and they flip the camera, and the person doesn't know that now they're being filmed. So they're being filmed off guard. They don't know that the camera is pointing at them, and it's just to make fun of the person holding the phone. Now, it was sad when I saw that it was like a kid with maybe special needs who's holding the phone, but then I saw a clip where this group of kids give the phone to a substitute or a teacher, a elderly sub or teacher who has absolutely no idea what's going on, and they're making fun of the person in this clip. That could be your grandma, that could be your mom, that could be one of your relatives that these kids are going and making fun of because they think it's fun. Now, Texas has done away with phones in the classrooms, but kids are also doing it in the parking lots at schools. They're doing it at football games. They're doing it all over the place. They're doing it inside the stores. So if you have a kid that comes up to you and says, "Can you hold my phone?" Say no. Say no. Tell your kids to not hold anyone's phone. Tell your relatives who work in schools, if they're subbing, if they're teaching, if they're anything in the school, tell them not to hold anybody's phone. Just say no, because that's just what these kids are doing. And y'all let me know what you think. If you are a parent.
And there you have it.
Are they holding it so they don't see the screen? Like, how would you not see if you're? I guess if you're, they'd have to have the camera facing them. That's the only part that I don't get. I'm like, how do you not notice that? Like, is the screen away from them?
I would think I can think of is they're holding the phone to take a picture, but the screen is on them, so they're looking at their face. But I used to do that to be funny for the people that I was supposed to be taking pictures with. So I guess they're saying now that's something that's more or less offensive. Because I guess they may not be aware, because she did mention some folks that maybe have some disabilities, so they might not catch on. She also mentioned some people that may be older when she says the substitutes, the older substitutes. So maybe someone that doesn't know how to necessarily work the electronic device, and they're taking advantage of it and laughing about it. I guess that's what I took from it.
Zay, what's going on, brother? Just a quick recap. So what we got here is a trend that people are using, is essentially bullying. That's what it comes down to. That's what is being considered as. Now, I don't know how anybody else sees this based off of the clip, but what they're doing is they're taking the camera, they pick a specific person based on their aesthetics, how they look. Maybe they have a condition, and the camera is facing the people that's taking the picture, and then it flips back on the person taking the camera, and then they post it on social media, and then you get a bunch of teenagers and adults who pretty much clown whoever is the recipient of the image itself. That's pretty much the sum of that. But I don't know. Initial thoughts, anybody, like, just off of
kids is mean, man. Like, I don't, not to cut you off, I'm sorry. Was you
good, go ahead.
Finish what you were saying, bro.
No, you got it.
Kids is mean. Like, unless they got that love, they got loving parents that are teaching them how to be kind and compassionate. A lot of times kids is mean. It don't matter rich or poor too. It don't even matter skin color or nothing. And it's just a new way. You know what I'm saying? I deal with social bullying just about every day. So this is just another way that they found to do something. And what I have been teaching, what I have been realizing a lot of times, a lot of the mean kids, they don't like themselves. So they try to do everything they can to make everybody else feel bad because they don't feel good about the life they have. And I know because I was mean before. Sensitive but mean, and a bully at times. And I didn't like myself. So this is just another method that they could use to try to embarrass people. And in certain places, again, when they don't have that that support system, teaching them teamwork, teaching them, how to have a high self-esteem, teaching them self-love. This is what they run around doing all day, every day, trying to ruin somebody's day. And now, I'm from the hood, so I remember that's the way I felt about life. I wanted to make other people unhappy. But then when I realized, it was just like, man, that's such a waste of time and energy. So that's I don't like it. And then being in the schools, I can tell you right now, one of the number one problems we have is the phones. So what we have to do, we make them, they got to, matter of fact, I think the governor banned phones in Florida. So technically, they're not even supposed to have their phones regardless. Like, no kid should be in Florida, should be coming to school. But of course, they still bring them. But in our school, they got to, if you don't keep it in your book bag, you got to give it to your teacher or turn it into the front office so that we know that you don't have it.
I've noticed that in a lot of places are starting to follow suit. I think it was Norway did this a month ago where they banned students from having, or I think it was actually social media. They banned 16 and under from having social media. And then Australia also just banned social media for kids under 16, as well as a rule that you can't, like across their school boards, that you can't have your cell phones in the classroom because they're deemed a distraction. One of the things that I kind of found interesting is just how at the end she was like, don't give your phone to people. If they ask for your phone, don't give it to them. Like, that was something I grew up with knowing and like something to consider. My parents always said, if you have something that you care about, don't give it to anybody. Don't let anyone borrow it. Don't let anyone just take it and hold it or whatever, because that's their gateway to steal it from you. And then also they might be more careless with it and might break it. And like, do you really want somebody to be responsible for breaking your phone that you were responsible for? Because if you break your phone, you're not getting another one. And I just kind of had that in my mind when she was talking about this trend, where I wouldn't even trust anyone to give them my phone. If someone was like, hey, let me have your phone so I could record a video, I'll be like, no, thanks. Why don't you just use your own phone? Like, that would be really suspicious to me. I'm like, why don't you just use your own phone? Why would you? And then if somebody tried to give me their phone so I could film them, I would be, I guess, holding it in a specific direction to make sure that I'm actually filming them. So I can see why more vulnerable populations would be targeted, because one, they're less likely to notice what's happening, and B, I mean, they're going to be the ones that, like, people make fun of them just for their appearance, just for their facial expressions, just for how they're acting in the video. And so I think it's less the phone trend and more so who they're targeting. That is the whole aspect of bullying. Because if I had seen this initially and didn't hear the add-in of like they're choosing like elderly teachers, they're choosing people with special needs, I would have just thought it was a dumb trend, and I wouldn't have really seen it as bullying, because I would have been like, I mean, kids are going to be stupid, like that's what they do. But knowing that they specifically target certain people, that is to me what makes it actual bullying, because they're trying to put people that are already vulnerable in compromising situations. And so I think that's the real issue here, is that kids are learning to, I mean, this is behavior that is from their parents. This isn't something that kids are just like, kids aren't naturally mean. Kids are taught these behaviors. Kids are taught who are the vulnerable populations by what they hear their parents say. And if your parents are saying derogatory things about certain groups of people, those are exactly the types of people that you're going to target with your bullying. You're going to feel better than them. You're going to think that you are a superior human being in comparison to whatever groups that your parents are talking bad about or treating badly. And so again, kind of like our discussion last week, this is yet another indicator of how parents are not teaching kids the right way to act. This is, again, a reflection of the parenting that is going on, not the kids, because it is a reflection of the kids, but it's very much a reflection of the kids' parents and what they're being allowed to do, what they're being exposed to, what is being permitted in the home. Because I guarantee it, a lot of these parents are probably going to have the same reaction that we saw from those kids that beat up and attacked that pregnant woman and her children. They're going to be very dismissive. They're going to blow it off. They're going to, oh, it's no big deal. Why are you coming after my kid? They're just being kids. But this is exactly what we can't allow, because by permitting minor infractions like this, it paves the way for future violence towards people, because it allows them to become comfortable with being aggressive towards others, being being comfortable with shaming other people just because of who they are. And again, it paves the way for worse bullying, because it allows them to see that they can get away with it, that, oh, it's not that bad. And future decisions will be easier for them to make because they won't have that voice in their head saying, like, this is inappropriate. You shouldn't be doing this. There were no repercussions from the past to help them figure out their choices in the future.
Zay, how you feel about this? We giving too much power over to technology? Are we putting too many devices in front of these kids' faces? Is this a part of the problem? Is this just something that is in addition to what is lacking in the household to you? Like, what's your thoughts?
Well, I mean, like, here's one thing. I was born at a time where there wasn't much technology, but it was also coming about, if that makes sense. It was starting to be around the world. It was starting to come make a change. And it was helpful, it was beneficial, but it was also taken away from normal things like going outside or, just interacting with humans. It started out in little tiny ways, but at the same time, it helped in so many ways too. And I understand there's a lot of bullying going around, but like I said, this is not just about technology. This goes with anything. I feel like it's the person that wields the sword, if that makes sense. It's not the sword that has the power. It's the person that wields it. And there's so many different factors that go into it, but I do think technology could be beneficial if people just use their heads, not have technology control them, but control the technology, if that came out right. What do you guys think from that standpoint?
Hey, I think that was a great point. I think you have to be aware of the age gap, because we tend to show the distance and the separation by talking about how we grew up and how things were, maybe 10, 15 years ago. And what it sounds like is that we just aren't progressing as people. And we're the ones that's less resistant to change. I think as the technology grows, you need to educate yourself. I hear a lot of people that hold out on updating their phones, hold out on updating devices, laptops. But the people that aren't holding out on doing those things are the kids. They got the latest and greatest technology. They have the latest things that's going on. And as they're educating and as they're learning, I think the parents, uncles, aunts, whomever, they aren't necessarily educating themselves and staying current with the times. I remember growing up listening to, tapes of rap music, but there was somebody saying, hey, that music's bad, that music's the devil, whatever the case they were saying, back when you had Dolores Tucker and then running over CDs and everything. But there was always somebody there. It was the balance. And right now there's no balance. It's like people don't even care enough to keep up with the technology and how it's curving and how it's changing. So yes, it's the parents' responsibility, but I think it's your responsibility, period. If you plan to be involved in society, is you have to evolve like everybody else is evolving. You got to be careful because we say things like things are suspicious. We can blame the parents, but we also have to keep in mind too that these kids are also a product of their environment outside of the home. So maybe again, we talk about schools and we talk about teachers, maybe not give them extra responsibilities, but maybe take some things out that's no longer applicable and update them with some things that are applicable in 2025. So maybe plug and play and update some policies and procedures so that some of the things that, might not be necessary as important as they were, you can kind of maybe make the job more simplified to, times of the day. And you have to get that feedback from teachers. I work with some teachers and some principals, but just using some of the feedback that they're giving me. So we got to make sure those things are updated. And then kids are learning from their parents, but I wouldn't say that their parents, that you can hold them necessarily accountable for every bad action that they have, because the unfortunate portion is it goes back to educating yourself with technology and being able to put those restrictions on the devices. How many people give their kids free range with the device? How many people put the restrictions on there for words, nudity, graphic, different content on the actual devices themselves? If you, the parent, don't even want to get an updated device and you don't even know, the new terms and policies of the device, then how can you police your, child that's using the said device? So again, it just comes back to the education, then the communication piece. Hit that mic.
You can be doing everything right in the world, but as soon as your child leaves out of that front door, you can't predict nothing. Your hope is that you're teaching them enough to where they keep and retain that information when they are not around you, because they're developing their own individuality and you can't be on top of them 24 hours a day. What you said, I absolutely, I felt that, especially with, are you really involved in monitoring or setting up the proper measurements on these devices to ensure that, well, I can limit it as much as possible, but still, even at the end of the day, you're doing that part, but you still got to understand, we were young too. We found ways around that stuff.
Right.
So when it all boils down to, I agree, parents do have a part in it, but I think that their part to me comes in when you're not around me and now you're engaging with other students, you're dealing with other teachers and other elderly people, and you're using these different tools for whatever purpose you are. Are you representing me properly when you're not in my presence? Or is it a different version of you? How many times, Rob, have you had situation with a student, or you've witnessed a parent say, my child would never do this? They're the best thing that ever happened to the world in general, but you see something different than what the parents see. And that's, I think that part doesn't get addressed enough. So as far as with the video itself, I put fault on adults and kids. One, because adults are online cyberbullying all the time. We don't hold them accountable for trolling. We don't hold them accountable for telling people to off themselves. We don't hold them accountable for just meaningless, pointless use of arguments that's just there just to cause problems for no apparent reason. Like, there's a lot of factors that go into it, and when you got kids looking at you do it, they're gonna think it's okay too. I never knew anything about the whole flip phone stuff. Like, the bullying that I remember was right there in your face. It wasn't through text messages and all that stuff. You were sitting in your classroom with them or at the lunchroom with them and all that. But this right here, yeah.
Yeah, now look. First, I remember letting kids hold my phone and having to chase them down. Because you know how kids is. They trying to go in your photos, they taking pictures of you or whatever. And then I remember back in the days before the phones, little simple things like your bike. I remember the homie took my bike and went off about 8 hours. And I'm with Sydney to where you got to teach your kids to protect their property. Don't let nobody do nothing. Even adults too nowadays, especially when it comes to strangers. Like, I'm always in a position. You have some nice people, and a lot of times you could be a good judge of character. But if a stranger walked up 9 out of 10 times right now to use my phone, nah, B, I can't. You know what I'm saying? That's probably more than New York. I mean, you know, we antisocial. But right now, you got to teach the kids. You got to teach your kids how to protect themselves, and now it's their property, their intellectual property, whatever. Your phone, especially from people who don't value your they don't value your stuff. It's like if you're running around with a person that don't care about their life. A lot of times you're gonna end up caught up in a bad situation with them because they don't care. So if you got people that don't have the same things, or they don't value, or they have that attitude, at the end of the day, you got to tell them no. You know what I'm saying? And then you got to teach them too, where to even if they scared, don't act like it tight. Like, you know what? I don't care. So and so told me to give them the phone, or they was gonna do. Nah, no, you can't have my stuff. You know what I'm saying? And that's where a lot of where parents come in, because you got to teach your kids to be tough, but they ain't all got to be fighting. They don't have to be fighting. If your kid never had a fight, I would think that's a win in life. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, that's just a natural part of life. So where they probably have 1 or 2 fights. But you got to teach your kids how to say no. You know what I'm saying? No, you can't have my phone. If y'all like that, whatever way you are, if you got a mean spirit or whatever, you got bad intentions, you got to stay from around me. I'm going to stay from around you. You know what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, even as adults, we got to protect our property and our spirits, because you never know. You know what I'm saying? So with all of that, I think that it could start from the home. Some kids is gullible or whatever, but at the end of the day, you really gotta instill in them, like, yo, this is your stuff. You better bring it home. Don't break it. Don't lose it. You know what I'm saying? And if you got your phone out in a place where it's not supposed to be, then you probably should have your phone taken.
What's some things that you guys think that can help parents and kids? Because right now, a lot of buzzwords is people are calling themselves empaths. They're calling themselves, basically everything that's out there to identify themselves as being socially awkward or socially distanced. So, what's some things you think that could help people out individually out there that can, as far as with young kids?
Self-esteem, bro. Straight up. Self-esteem. Learn how to teach them how to love themselves. Teach them how to protect themselves. And teach them how to say no. You know what I'm saying? Not be influenced by things, not be influenced by drugs, not be influenced by the things they see on TV, not be influenced by other kids, especially if they got bad intent. You gotta teach them how to say no, man. That's the hardest thing right now, for to just be like, no, I'm going home. No, I'm not. Y'all doing that over there? Y'all my people. Whoop-de-whoop. Even from the hood, I was watching this thing, and it took a while to realize that, the toughest people from the hood was the people that lived in the hood and didn't get in no trouble. That is the toughest. Those is the gangsters to me. Like, that is the toughest thing you could do, to be able to stay in a tough environment and keep yourself out of trouble. And I know about 2 or 3 people like that to this day, and they are my role models now, because I was easily influenced because they was able to, they respected, they respectable, they tough, and they just knew when to say no, they knew when to separate. So you got to teach your kids when to listen, get out of Dodge if it don't feel right, if the energy is off, trust your gut, come home, you're not alone, you could tell me anything. And at the end of the day, protect yourself. You got to speak up. Protect your property. Don't let nobody just take nothing from you. Of course, if you're in a situation where they got a gun or a knife, or if it's 10 of them, then we could deal with that. You know what I'm saying? You got to come home alive. But at the end of the day, you protect yourself, man. If you got to scrap it out one time, squab it out, because we're going to be there right behind you to make sure that nobody mess with you again. But if you got to fight for your life to protect yourself, don't let nobody put their hands on you, take your property. A lot of kids don't have those role models there to teach them that. So they gotta navigate that on their own. And then a lot of times they don't go home and tell what be happening at the school because they be intimidated. You know what I'm saying? We deal with this every day, all day. So you got to be that one in their ear, like, yo, you valuable, you priceless, you loved, you'll never be alone. You gotta, I gotta send you out here whoop-de-whoop, but you have the right to protect yourself and your property at all times.
This kind of makes me think of the other conversation we had about vaping, like young kids vaping. This is the type of stuff that you have to approach with your kid early. Like, you can't wait until they're in middle school, they're in high school, when they're starting to have issues for you to approach them about this type of stuff. You need to raise them so they know, number one, you are the person that they can always come to about anything. No matter what is happening, they can trust you. They can trust that you will protect them. They can trust that if something happens, even if they did something wrong on accident or even on purpose, not in the sense of like bullying, but like, oh, they let their friend borrow their phone and then their friend stole the phone. Even if they did have a part to play, that they're not going to get in trouble for telling someone that someone did something wrong to them, that it's not their fault if something bad happens to them, somebody mistreats them, somebody bullies them, and that they should always feel comfortable to come to their parents about whatever it is. And then also get that stupid mindset out of there of like, don't be a snitch. You wouldn't turn in your friend, would you? If somebody is being abusive towards you, whatever it is, verbally or physically or whatever, you're not a snitch. You need to get help, because again, that stuff can escalate. And then the other thing, what was that?
I said, see something, say something kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And then also the idea that you are responsible for your body, your boundaries, your possessions. If somebody is infiltrating your space, if they're making you uncomfortable, if they're doing anything that makes you question their behavior or their intentions, teach them that it's okay to leave that area, leave the person, ignore them, walk away, and have the confidence to do so. Because I know a lot of kids will put up with awkward or strange feeling behavior because they're too afraid to get shunned or too afraid to look weird in front of their peers and whatever. Like, they don't want to have people like shun them or whatnot. Like, we all know how kids are, but they should be comfortable in saying no, be comfortable in telling somebody to go away, that you don't want anything to do with them, be comfortable going to a teacher, going into a teacher's room. If somebody is making you feel like there's something off about their behavior, they shouldn't be afraid to go to a teacher and to a principal to get help as well. Because I know a lot of kids will also not want to not only not tell their parents, but not want to tell a teacher. And then again, as I kind of mentioned, they need to be comfortable in their power to say no, their power to reject that type of behavior, their power to say, no, this is mine, I'm going to hold on to this, and not fall to that peer pressure. Because as you kind of point out, Rob, the people that are the most powerful are the ones that feel comfortable not participating. They feel comfortable in saying, no, that's not my thing, I'm not going to do that, no matter what anyone else is saying. And this isn't something that they get to middle school and then you start teaching them this stuff. Like, this is something that they need to know from the very beginning, from the moment they are kind of exposed to other people, the moment they have autonomy to voice how they feel about something, to have the ability to like make decisions for themselves. That is when they need to start understanding that it doesn't matter if it's a child, it doesn't matter if it's an adult. If somebody's doing something to you that makes you uncomfortable, you get your parent, you get somebody that you trust, because that is not okay. And you have the right to reclaim your space, to reclaim your comfortability, and to get out of that situation if you feel it's necessary for yourself. And this is like 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds. This is the time that they need to be introduced to this type of stuff, not when they're 12, 13, 14, 15. Because by then, they have already had all of these other ingrained habits. They're already more socially vulnerable at that age. And so if they don't have those other types of habits ingrained into them, their own power ingrained into them, they're going to be far more susceptible to any type of peer pressure that is coming from either from adults or from other students.
I think it's important that you give your loved ones every opportunity to know that it's okay to have their own personality. You got to be comfortable in your own skin. Either you're going to teach them how to do it or someone else is going to teach them how to do it, period. I would rather have those uncomfortable conversations with you inside the house than you have them outside the house. Because most likely you dealing with different spirits, it's going to mess up your frequency completely. That's dangerous because you're going to bring that into the house. And the man and woman in the house have to be able to prevent those specific things from entering and creating its own home inside of a structure that is designed to keep your family healthy. And if you're allowing your children to pick up on characteristics and traits outside of the house, it's not only going to affect them, it's going to affect everybody in the house too, eventually. You can't say this is bad, don't do it, and not have specific details, examples, experiences, testimonies. You have to be able to talk to them as if you're talking to yourself. Imagine talking to yourself at 12 years old, telling them what you know now to someone that you were before. You have to have those type of conversations with your kids, period. You don't want someone else showing them how to smoke and how to drink, and that's not it. I don't. That's just the answer your question about empaths and things like that. Being vulnerable is not an issue. You can be vulnerable. I don't like all of these buzzwords. I don't like when you say, "Oh, you're weak if you cry as a man," or you're soft if you walk away from confrontation, or you're this and that because you don't do this and that. I don't subscribe to that. What you're basically telling me is, if I don't follow a model that society has set before me, then that's a bad thing. And that does not mean that it's actually a bad thing. In fact, it's probably the best thing for you. Rob, you said something about a individual specifically who said, "I'm not even about to fit into this mold. Yeah, I can't. I grew up here, but that don't mean I have to accept it." And you don't. Just because they gang members and you grew up in the sandbox with them, don't mean you have to follow the same trend at all. And I would rather you say, "You know what? He's square. I don't want to be around that." Cool. You're more likely to end up in jail before me. Teach foresight, teach wisdom, teach the difference between someone just talking at you and talking to you. You can have knowledge, but don't know what to do with it. I think a lot of people have information and it's just wasting away. I think most of us understand right and wrong, but we don't really understand the different dimensions that you can go into when you play in these different elements with different folks. So I would say that. And then one other thing, just in regards to the parents of the kids who don't really have much pushback with the bullying stuff, and they need to be held accountable just like their children need to be held accountable. There's no way, or there's no reason why a woman that is not even in her final trimester is getting assaulted by a bunch of kids, and then the parents are getting on the internet with these sob stories and fake apologies, knowing that they've been giving that woman and her kid problem for 2 years. That coincides with this specifically because at the end of the day, your kids are a product of you. Period. They're going to eventually go out here and develop their own timeline. They're going to have their own, how can I put it? Anybody here ever watched Pulp Fiction? So there's like 3-4 different stories within the movie. Everybody done had 3 or 4 different versions of themselves in life. I know I have. I've been the smoker, I've been the drinker, I've been the lover boy, I've been the atheist, I've had my stint with all different versions, and yeah, you can only do but so much. But I go back to what I said earlier. Talk to your kids and don't just pacify it and then, oh, blah 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 blah. Then you go back to watching TV. No, you have to really be in there with them. I yield the mic. Zay, you got anything you want to share with us? You cool?
You all got valid points, and what you guys are saying is teaching me a lot because I don't have my own kids, so like learning what you're saying before I even have kids is beneficial for me because I can learn how to properly raise my kids the right way.
Yeah, I don't think anybody like right now in 2025, you don't want to put nobody in a position or at a disadvantage. Most people would say, and I give it to you, Rob. I see you. This ain't going to sound very popular, but I'm with Denmark. Nobody under the age anywhere from 16, 15 under, no, they shouldn't have no devices. Well, you shouldn't be on your phones like that. We really need to put these kids back outside in the dirt. Let them play, but you can't do that. I know we're not going back to that. That's not happening. We done already passed that. But just my 2 cents. You was about to say something, bro?
Oh yeah. Nah. I think we got to teach the kids too. There's a difference between being funny and trying to hurt people's feelings.
Good point.
Kid, you know what I'm saying? Kids, they got to know how to take a joke. They got to know how to crack back. As a kid, that'll make you kill yourself if you can't respond in them situations to where you get embarrassed or whatever. So you gotta teach kids like, okay, it's if somebody say your head big or whatever, you know what? You say they nose big or whatever. You know what I mean? You got to be able to come back because that's just the way the world is. And some people be joking, but where we cross the line is when I'm trying to hurt your feelings. And that's a big problem because a lot of times you'll have a kid that's going through it at home and they feel like they're just playing. You know how a lot of kids, I was just playing. But like now you hurt their feelings. Well, I was just playing. That's how we do at home. And they just don't know. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, you have to let your kid know, like, all right, is it harmful? Is there a foul in it? When they said what they said or they took your phone. Because sometimes your friend might snatch your phone and be like, oh, look. But there's a difference between, because after that friend will give you your phone back, make sure everything is deleted. They were just having fun with you. There's a difference between that than I took your phone, clowned you, and then put it on social media. You know what I'm saying? In those cases, yep, you got to punish everybody involved in that. You know what I'm saying? Because we in a time where it's so sensitive right now. Kids are suicidal, and you could be looking at them every day. I was talking to my lady the other day, and it's wild because you could be around a person every day and don't know nothing they going through, and the whole time they ready to end it, or they ready to, we call it crashing out now. They ready to crash out, or they feeling some kind of way, and then that's for adults too. You be at work with a person, and they come and they smile and they kiki and they get their work done, but on the inside they hurting bad. And these kids got it even worse because they got all these pressures coming down. They got all these pressures with the social media. Sometimes they don't have the best parents. They got to find out everything on their own. Sometimes they not eating. Even the rich kids, they parents is working. That's why they rich. They working 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week. They don't have nobody to talk to. They don't have and it's so bad with the social media and the technology. You almost got to play games with your kids just to see what they thinking. You got to sit there whether you could keep up with them or not. And people be going through it like that little, I call it the little voice in your head, whatever your conscience, whatever it is. You gotta figure out and try to be kind, but at the same time be able to take it and dish it back too. You know what I'm saying? Because you can't just be walking around soft. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to be fighting and all that, but at the same time, you got to be able to respond to where, because a lot of times you'll get respect to where if you just let somebody just clown you or whatever, they're gonna keep doing it until they realize, well, because a lot of times people want to fill you out. So we gotta find a balance between that and just as a response to what's going on, especially with the government and all that right now, we gotta be kind. You know what I'm saying? This way off topic, but they starving their own people now. I ain't never in a million years thought they had cut off the food stamps. So now we seeing all of this. The kids is being affected and they're taking it out on each other. So we got to teach the kids, what's the balance? What is the balance? Are you having fun? Are you just clown, or are you trying to hurt me? That's I'm with Sydney and all y'all to where when you're trying to hurt me, now I got to do that. That got to be stopped right there.
Yo, so what I'll say is I watched Mike Epps. He did an interview the other day, and I thought it was pretty interesting because he said as a comedian, there's no real career path, right? He said typically it's the kid that's acting out in the back of class, that's the funniest, but get labeled as a troublemaker. It's typically the kid in the lunchroom, doing something hysterical, making everybody laugh, but they're typically labeled as a troublemaker. So it's kind of hard if somebody naturally has humor, that's an emotion, and you don't allow them to express it, so you have them suppress it. But you're a champion saying, hey, you should be able to cry and show those type of emotions. So now we're picking and choosing what type of emotions we want people to show. We're picking and choosing which type of emotions are acceptable. So I think we've had enough talented comedians right now. Eddie Murphy's getting praised right now with his biography and everything he got on Netflix. But I think if that was maybe a field that was more respected, because it takes an art to make somebody laugh, right? And then typically what you hear from comedians is it comes from a place of pain. So it comes from a place of pain, and they turn that with pain, which is an experience, which is also, if you go to therapy, it's accepted because it's trauma, right? So if you teach them to harness that energy and turn it into something positive, and it's looked at as a way of positivity, creativity, and art, because it is an art in order to make people laugh. So I think, again, it just goes back to changing perspectives and old ways of looking at things and doing things. I think we already answered our own questions, but we just pick and choose which ones we want to subscribe to. The other thing is, like we mentioned, the sports, as far as for maybe start pushing. You got so many things out there, like karate and taekwondo used to be really big back in the days. Right now, you got jiu-jitsu, you got, all these different hand-to-hand combat individual things that build self-discipline, it builds confidence. Maybe if the parent checks their ego at the door, that you may necessarily don't have anything to offer your child in that realm, but take them to someplace that does. If you went through something because you were an introvert or empath, or you just was not an outgoing personality, maybe look at that as an attribute that can help your child, growing up and doing different things. So I think if we just tend to look at things differently, I think we've already answered some of our own questions, but more or less as a society, as we looked at those things and just try to build everybody up, versus saying, well, I don't want my kids to go through this. I don't want them to go do that. Look at the logical standpoint. If they go out and learn an individual skill, then that means they'll be able to think for themselves. They'll be able to do for themselves. Like they say, I can fish for you and you can eat. Or I can teach you how to fish and you can eat for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? So different things along just got to adapt that mentality to different things. And then you mentioned, it was a great point. You say play games. You might have to play games to understand your kid. If it's some shit you're interested in, you probably do it. If it was throwing the football, if they shared a love of art like you did, whether it was basketball or volleyball, whatever it is, sometimes parents just need to not be as selfish and take that interest anyway. You know, you might not want to play freaking Minecraft, but, you know, get in there and get 20 minutes out of it and then meet them where they're at. And then that way you open up those doors and the opportunities to have those communication opportunities. So, you know, a lot of times we get stuck in our own ways because of our own mindsets and then how we were raised by our parents, you know. So I think, again, sometimes you just step to the side and get out the way. I think you'll be all right. And the last thing is the suicidal ideations. You know, a lot of times nowadays, again, this generation tends to communicate with emojis and not really complete sentences. So it's like you kind of unlearning the things that you've learned, but you step your emoji game up. You know what I mean? Because you speaking to them and asking them how they're doing, they aren't responding. They aren't receiving that information as far as for, what do you mean, how am I doing? You know what I'm saying? So if you can't even get past, you know, the hello and that, then you're not going to be able to get to a deeper level. It's going to continue to stay shallow. And like I just saw today, the Slender Man or somebody that was online hurting people. And so they, you know, tend to gravitate more something towards that. So again, just try meeting them where they're at. Maybe not necessarily be stuck in your ways to, this is the way I was raised and this is how we did things. But if you got to get in there and play some Roblox or some Minecraft, you know what I mean? Get in there for 15, 20 minutes, you know, and that's a start. At least I think if you start to put that foot forward and try to meet them where they're at, I think that's, you know, a better approach than just not necessarily doing anything at all. I'm out.
That makes me think of this piece of advice that stuck with me that I learned years and years ago. I think I might have even been in high school or college, where one of the early ways that you engage with your child is when they start to bring you artwork, don't guess what's in the picture. You ask them, hey, can you tell me about what you drew? Or can you describe this picture to me? Because then that gives them the opportunity to come to you with what they created. And it gives them a chance to show pride in their work. It gives them a chance to voice what they were thinking, what they were feeling, what they were imagining when they created this artwork, as opposed to, like, especially kids that are more shy or introverted. If you just ask them directly, sometimes the kids will just be like, yes. And then you don't get anything else out of them. And so it's really important to, like you said, engage with them where they're at and genuinely ask them about their interest, genuinely inquire into the things that they care about. And also a big thing, which is crazy to me that that parents don't do this, but get them things based on their interests. Don't just buy them the toy that every other kid is getting. Don't just get them the book that every parent that's popular right now or whatever. Like, get them things that they're genuinely interested in, that they're showing a love for, or that reinforces existing interests. Like the best example I have is from my own childhood, where I was addicted to animals. I absolutely loved animals of all kinds. And I remember one specific year for Santa's list, I wrote that I wanted a stuffed horse and a real horse, and a stuffed guinea pig and a real guinea pig, and like a bunch of stuff. And then my mom went out and got me all this like craft stuff. And like I could knit my own stuffed animal, or I could like painting and all this other stuff that I never used. And I was so disappointed because I didn't get a single thing on the list that I had asked for. And I mean, at the time I felt bad because I was like, I'm trying not to be ungrateful, and I tried to make an effort to use those things. But I remember being so disappointed that Christmas, like opening everything and not getting anything that I had asked for. And this is something that kids can experience all the time, where they're so excited to share something with their parents. They're so thrilled about a certain hobby or an interest that they have. And then as soon as they approach their parent to talk about it or to just go on and on about it, their parent either brushes them off and like, oh, I'm too busy right now. Oh, I don't want to hear it. Oh, I've heard enough about that. Oh, you've told me this already. That type of behavior is going to make them feel over time like their voice doesn't matter, that their interests are insignificant to you, that you don't actually care about who they are underneath. And they're more likely to start modifying their own behavior to match what they think that you want. And that type of behavior is exactly what leads kids to either A, be the bully themselves, or B, be more susceptible to the bullying, because they're more likely to mold their behavior to match other people around them, because that's what they've been trained to do. They've been trained to mask their personality, to ignore who they are inside, to not exist in themselves, because it had been brushed aside so many times before by the people that were supposed to be there for them. And it's our job as parents to meet them where they're at and to encourage the things that already exist inside them that they love. And of course, you do have to introduce them to new things. Like, you can't just, you're only interested in these things, so I'm never exposing you to anything else ever. You still want to expose them to the world and have them learn different areas so they can see if there's other things that they're interested in. But it's also your job to reinforce the things that they care deeply about. Like, every kid has their passion, and a happy kid is one that has access to the things that they care about. Whether that's sports, whether that's animals, whether that's science or history or whatever. It's your job to reinforce that and give them the opportunity to dive deeper into those interests. And oftentimes, those kids are the ones that end up being the most successful in life. Those are the ones that end up in careers that align with their interests, and so they're more successful. They've shown it in studies time and time again that if you enter a career that you're passionate about, regardless of what the pay is, typically you're more successful than people that just take jobs for the pay, because your passion behind it allows you to progress and to push through even when you experience difficulties. Whereas if you're only in it for the money, there's a higher rate of people quitting those jobs and not being promoted because they don't have the excitement behind it that will make them stand out in a workforce situation. And so, as I said, basically, as a parent, it is your duty to be there for their child as they are. You're not there to force them to fit a certain mold, to dress a certain way, to act like all the other kids, or to do what's most popular. If they want to do what's popular, then sure, go for it. But if they're showing you specific interests, if they want to watch certain movies within reason, if they have certain things that they care about, those are the things that you should focus on. And I don't see a lot of parents doing that nowadays. I see a lot more parents that are basically like, I design your room, I choose your outfits, I choose the friends you hang out with, I choose the hobbies that you're in and whatnot, I choose the books that you read, and all sorts of different controls on them, hoping that they can mold their child to be what the parents have in mind that they want their child to be. But these children are not going to be happy when they get older. And it's going to get to the point where either they give up themselves, they give up their personalities, and they are unhappy with themselves, or they're going to cut off the parents once they're old enough to realize, you didn't let me be myself. And again, as I said, that type of mentality also makes them vulnerable to this type of bullying that we're seeing, because if they aren't allowed to be who they are, they're not going to have confidence in their decisions. They're not going to be comfortable being different than other people and going against the grain. And so they're more likely to allow and to cave to that type of behavior when they're exposed to it, because they don't have confidence in who they are.
Well said. Well said. I want to go around one more time just to get everybody's bars off. If anybody, want to add on to what she said, or if you feel like we left something out, because I think we covered a lot as far as when it comes to children who are on the other end of the "oh, you're making fun of me" thing, but I don't know if we've necessarily addressed children who are using these things as a means of entertainment. Like, why are you continuously? And matter of fact, I believe, Rob, you alluded to this earlier about them not really liking themselves. I don't know if that was specific to the kid doing it, but that's something that needs to be addressed too, right? Um, Something is clearly missing there, and I don't know where the disconnect is fully, but this has been going on since forever. So, like, at some point, we got to start somewhere with this. So, I'm gonna turn it over to anybody who want to add anything on here. We'll
Yo,
wrap up.
go ahead.
Yeah, I'll
Floor
just
is
say
yours.
that. Oh, I'll just say that hurt people hurt people. You know what I mean? That's just one thing that remains true. Um, like you mentioned it, and obviously, if they're not feeling good about themselves, like DMX6 said, I see people having a good time, I'm gonna ruin it. You know what I mean? I think that's something up for you know what I mean,
You never
for
lie.
anything. You know what I mean? If they're not happy, man, hurt people hurt people. So I don't think it's a deep dive that needs to go into it. So that's all I got.
Yo, real quick, listen, and the phones is the new drugs, man. Yo, I'm addicted to social media. I'm 45. Tell you straight up, I can't even go 5, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and it's bad too. And then not only that, my attention span short. It's hard for me to watch a video more than 30 seconds. So the phones is like the new crack. You got to listen, if you got children, two things, and I'm going to yield the mic. You got to learn, you can't watch them all the time, but you need to know as much as humanly possible what they're doing, who they're with, where they are all day, every day, and how they feel. And then second, regulate that phone time. You got to, because we work, I'm at the school. You take a kid phone right now, they'll fight you. Take a kid, try to turn off a kid YouTube right now in these day and times. And that's a whole argument, a fight. You might get attacked. You know what I'm saying? Because these phones, they got us in the I saw the thing where it said the cell phone. It's working. It's keeping us in the cell. So as far as for the children, you got to regulate that and teach them balance. Like, all right, you know what? You got phone time, whoopty whoop, da 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 da. But you're gonna do something different today. You're gonna read a book. I had one professor one time, and she changed my life with this. She said for every 15 minutes her child gets to watch TV, she has to read a book for 30 minutes. Now we not, in the reading stages, but if you gotta read a book online or listen to one, whatever, we gotta balance that to where uh that phone is not controlling their mind. And then at the same time, we gotta hold people accountable because kids will sneak their phone to school. You wasn't supposed to bring that phone to school. I deal with that every day too. And they will do whatever is allowed of them. So we got another thing. We want to protect our kids and give them the things we ain't had. We also got to hold our kids accountable. And I'm talking from a perspective. I don't. I'm not an expert. Whatever. Even I've been in the school system, so I'm not an expert because all this stuff is new. But at the same time, we got to start holding these kids accountable. A lot of time we want to pacify them, and a lot of time we want to make up and be their crutch and make up for what everything they didn't have. And so with these phones right now, a lot of time I'm with you, Deep. You might not even need to have that thing right now. You understand what I'm saying? Especially in certain environments, because that's just leading to all of this unnecessary drama. So the phones is just as powerful as any hard drug, and we gotta acknowledge that, and we gotta find a way to fight that.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think everybody pretty much got their balls off. Shout out to Michelle Campbell. Shout out to Boogie. Shout out to Custom. I've seen a few faces in here tonight. Shout out to everybody on the panel. This was a pretty dope discussion, man. Hopefully it helps somebody. It sits well in somebody's spirit. These are the type of things we need to cover more. I'm with you, bro. I done picked up my phone a few times during the stream, and I gotta get away from it too, man. I gotta get back into reading myself. So I think, yeah.
I was just going to say that's exactly why I left Instagram, because I got to a point where even when I wasn't on my phone, I would find myself moving my thumb as if I was scrolling through Instagram. And I was like, oh, I don't like that. It has hijacked my brain. And that is super alarming. And this month, I made a pact with myself that I'm going to actually read. And I've gotten about 3/4 of the way through the book. And this is the first book that I've read since college. It's been 10 years since I've actually read a full book. And it's interesting because comparing reading the book to watching videos, because granted, most of the stuff that I watch is not mindless. It is a lot of like educational stuff. But I noticed that there was a very different feeling I had at the end of reading than I had with watching videos. When I was done watching videos, I felt drained. I felt like my mind was not settled. In fact, it felt more unsettled. But when I was reading, I felt a sense of accomplishment. Like I felt like relaxed, and I felt more in the mood to be creative afterwards, instead of like feeling flustered. And that was pretty eye-opening to me, because I was like, wow, I've really been doing myself a disservice by thinking that watching these videos were actually good for me. Because yeah, educating yourself is a good thing, but the medium matters. When you watch videos and when you're jumping from video to video, it affects your mind very differently than when you sit down and give the focus to a book and you're calmly, quietly absorbing what you're reading. And if anyone is struggling with like anxiety and all like you can't calm your thoughts and stuff, I highly suggest starting to read. Pick something that you're interested in, but reading can do a lot for your brain that I didn't anticipate it would do for me.
Anybody got any plugs? Y'all want to plug anything? You want anybody to check out anything while we here? My QR joints ain't on this one for some reason. So cheap plugs, anything like that, man. Y'all got it.
You know I always got a shameless plug, baby. I am the Rolling Weave store. I just got a new load of high quality hair weave extensions, bundles. like 9A, natural 1B. I deliver them anywhere you are. Just call me. I don't have a website and all that. I had one, they wasn't buying. So there's no excuses. If you're serious, call me. And then as far as music, I was told I probably put out about 4 or 5 hit songs this year. It's International Rob on all the streaming platforms. Yep, I'm chasing the rainbow, trying to depend on streams because I believe in the power of sales. But it's International Rob on all of the major outlets. I just put out Make Sure, Bankroll, My Sport, Got One. They've been calling me, telling me those is fire. Holla at me. Go download the songs you like. Check it out. All the videos on YouTube. Let me know what you're thinking.
Hey, look, we about to get up out of here. Y'all enjoy the rest of your night. We'll be back tomorrow. The King's Morning Table. This whole week is about to be lit, man. If I don't chop it up with y'all tomorrow, y'all stay safe. Have a blessed evening, a blessed Tuesday. Don't stress. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your night. All right.
Bye. Say bye-bye.
Peace.